Good evening, Facebook. I just had a bomb ass dinner. I mixed up some canned peas with canned corn and put some stuffing together, and then I put some sliced, canned sliced tomatoes with it. So I didn't even have any meat. It was so boss. And then I put black pepper, some Italian seasoning, a little bit of bouillon, and some chicken broth with it, butter, a little bit of olive oil, so that when I had it in my little frying pan, it didn't really fry, you know. Oh, it was so good. Seasoned salt. It was great. So I am freaking happy. That's my only meal. The whole changing the diet, especially when you're living under somebody else's roof with their foods, is very different. You know, it's just, if I could do it my way, it would be so different. I would have my quinoa again with my collard greens, my bok choy, you know, other frozen vegetables. I'd have frozen fruits so I could put it in like water and have a little bit of stevia with it. Just so I'm really makeshifting a lot of my happiness right now. But it's also like, I was initially annoyed with it at first, but not anymore. Anyway, that's not really what I wanted to talk about, but I just wanted to bring that up because it was freaking bomb. I was so glad. I was like, I'm just gonna try some BS, and it came out great. What I wanted to talk about is Daryl. Daryl. I really think his last name is Stanford. And the weirdest thing is, the owner of the house, his wife's maiden name is Sanford. I don't know if they're related. Now I'm even more confused. But I don't think so, because I met his mom. She's a white lady. She's living in a trailer. And then his dad lives somewhere in Riverside. Anyway, going back to Daryl. Yeah, I guess at the end of, you know, I think the reason why the heartache was what it was it was a slow, intentional destruction of respect. So first of all, like I said, everybody else I chose, he chose me. He came after me. I met him at Duke's Bar and Grill. No, lies. I met him at Liam's in Colton. And I didn't give him my number. I was like, yeah, well, I'm gonna be at Duke's next Sundays. I think it was like 4 days, and at Sunday. So I was like, if you're there, cool. And he showed up, so I was like, oh wow, he's really like, he's coming for me. So it was kind of it was different. I wasn't used to somebody being the predator. I was used to being the predator. And yeah, so I think I don't recall everything, but that's how insignificant he is now. You know, he became very insignificant. Especially like once you start hurting me, it's like, you know, pieces of the heart just get numb and don't feel anymore. And my mind was already like, yeah, come on, Jackie, when are you done? My mind is always way faster than my heart. So anyway, yeah, we got together. We spent a lot of time. You know, he was very needy, you know, like he always wanted to be with me. And I was like, okay, cool, but it's a little extreme. We don't even know each other that well. And he really did force himself into my life. And then, you know, just all the issues. I didn't want to be at my own apartment because people were breaking in. Who knows what they were doing to me? They would beat me up at one point, one of these years. I didn't even realize that was going on. And all I did was work. Like, I even had 2 full-time jobs a lot of the time. How can I be mentally ill, on drugs, abusive, violent? How could I be a prostitute if I have 2 full-time jobs? I remember for a good like 6-7 months to a year, I think it was almost a year, I had 2 jobs, to the point where I only slept for maybe, I hoped, for 3 hours a night, because I still had to take a shower when I got home. I still had to make food, you know. I still had to take care of my cats. You know, I still had to do the litter, clean the litter box, brush them, let them know I'm not just this dead weight that's here, because they're gone. That's why I'm glad I had the two cats, so they kept each other company, you know, because I was gone a lot of the time. So, and even when I had one job, especially when I was at Burlington, I was gone all the time. Anyway, going back to Daryl. So he really did force himself into my life. And then it became a power trip, you know, like I had to be where he was all the time. And then I was like, let's meet my friends. He was having problems with my friends. Oh, I don't like Jesse. I don't like Mateo. I don't like this. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I was like, fine. So I compromised. I was like, fine. You know, and then he would take me to all different types of karaoke places. And then the KJs would always be like, are you so-and-so? And it'd be somebody else's name. And I was like, that's not me. And I never took offense because I was like, yeah, you know, he's already out. I already know he has a bunch of female friends. You know, it kind of was already like almost an instinctive understood. But at the same time, I still expected, because he was acting so about me, I still expected him to be loyal. And because I was with him literally all the time, how could I reject the thought that he was loyal, you know? But who knows? Maybe when I was sleeping, he called somebody over. I don't know. He was a weirdo. So anyway, we went to so many different karaoke places, and people, even girls, you know, would be like, oh, that was so beautiful and he's like, yeah. So anyway, bye, have a nice. And I'm like, why are you shooing them away? He hated me having attention. But at the same time, he also was trying to get me away from my friends. So I remember he was all about Shauna for a minute, all about Joanna, and then all of a sudden he didn't want me hanging out with them. And he was just like, well, why are you going over there? Well, you know, and yeah, so I ended up isolating myself, and we just ended up hanging out in his RV. And I was like, yeah, you know, I'll do some work on your on your bus. It was a bus that he was retrofitting into an RV, and his buddy was supposed to be helping him. And he was like, yeah, he's not helping me. But I could tell he was lazy. I was like, he's not helping you. You have all this time to do nothing. And you're living off of your military finances so you can live in a bus. And he wanted it to be a party bus. He wanted it to be a whole party show. And in the very back was his bedroom, because of course after the party he wants to go to bed with somebody, right? I already saw what he was doing. And then he ended up getting this KJ position with one of the ladies who owned a bar. And she seemed cool, but it was like everybody just hated me. And then, but the thing was then he would be like, hey, why don't you run the KJ thing? So I did. And then he got jealous of that. So first he was running the KJ thing. So I was bored. I wasn't going to sit next to him the whole time and have stupid girls come over. He literally wanted me to be an ornament, to sit there and all these girls, oh, hi. Oh, how are you doing? Oh, hey, oh, you look so good today. Oh, look at your hair. And he's like, yeah, you know, all just gobbling it up. And I sat there and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and watch girls fawn over you. And then you're like all about it. It's like a throw in my face of disrespect. Like I'm just on this little pedestal and that's all I am. I'm just a little prize. But you never do anything with the prize. Like, where's my enjoyment? And I remember one time I was like, screw this. So I walked to the other side of the room, the bar, because there were pool tables and some guys were like, hey, how you doing today? I was like, hey bro, how you doing? Whatever. And they were just playing pool. He's like, and he would walk up to me and be like, if you don't come right now, I'm gonna bash these guys' skulls in. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, if you don't leave these pool tables, I'm going to hurt somebody over here. And I looked at him like, are you serious? He was threatening me with being violent with somebody else just because I was existing and watching some guys play pool. I thought Andrew was bad. Andrew Perez. Oh, no. Because after that whole thing with Andrew, that was it. You know, I really don't remember ever having a problem with Andrew after that. We were great. We still hung out. We still danced, you know, like we still were kind of on and off, you know, but he understood, like, this was my boundary. If you're going to sit here and be emotional and freak out just because I'm looking at a pool table. And then I started to challenge him because he was, oh, with the girls again. Oh, no. So then every time he wanted to talk to a girl, I would just go over to the pool table or I'd leave. I'd walk out of the bar and I'd be on my phone. I'd be doing something else. I would sit at the bar, get a drink. I would be away from him. I would make sure he didn't have my attention. He don't like that. So Daryl would just be all, oh, what are you doing? I said, nothing. Oh, you gonna sing? No. Well, why not? I don't feel like it. Because, oh, look, that's his girlfriend. Oh, I want him because if he can have that, oh, he must be something special. He was nothing special. He was nothing, period. And then he kept on bringing female friends around, like that black girl. I forgot her name. He said he didn't even like her. Okay, so then what's the thing? He liked the attention from her. And I knew something was going on. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, she's living in her car, she's gonna stay at my bus. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not stupid. I already knew what was going on. But they wanted to act like they were being respectful. Sure, yeah. I'm like, whatever. And then when he brought the white lady in, she was nice. She has a kid who's 18, never met the kid. But she was cool, and she was, trying to be really respectful. But then he started to pay more attention to her when we brought her into the relationship, and I was like, no. And this is after my mom died. So I think the turning point for my sanity really was I stayed strong the whole time that my mom was in the hospital. I would go lotion her. He was harassing me. Oh, well, you're probably cheating on me. And I was like, if you keep on telling me I'm cheating on you, get out of my life, because I'm not going to the hospital, lotioning my mom down, cutting her nails while she's, sedated, everything, talking to her. Sometimes she would wake up. I was like, it's just me, mommy. I'm just giving you lotion. And she's like, I remember. She's so cute. And and I was like, no, you think I'm cheating? Fine, have fun. You think I'm cheating? He really tried to make me compromise between my own mother. I was like, this woman brought me into this world. You have no grounds. No grounds. I'm surprised he didn't accuse me of anything with my dad. But then, if he did, it probably would have put a light bulb up to my head and been like, what's really going on? Is that really happening? You see? So he couldn't implement my dad, but he loved implementing my mom. That's why, again, I will never talk bad about my mother. She went through a lot. Regardless of what kind of person she was with me growing up, what kind of trauma I experienced or gathered from her, that trauma that I got from her is minimal compared to everybody else in my life, literally everybody else in my life. So my mother will always be an angel to me. Nobody will take that away at all. Anyway, and then with Daryl, when my mom died, he held me for 3 hours. I was a wreck. After that, I didn't want to be conscious. I didn't want to be sober. I didn't want anything. So he kept the drinks coming. He kept the marijuana coming. And then when the white lady came in, all of a sudden they wanted to do shrooms. That was my end point. That was about like 21 days into it, and then by that 4th week, I was like, no. And I just bounced. I think so. Well, no, I didn't just bounce. I kept telling him, like, because he kept on wanting to bring her in the relationship more and more. I was like, okay, we could do it here and there, threesome here and there, that's fine. But it started to become not once a week, but 3 times a week. And then like every day. And I was like, no, that's why it only ended in 21 days was that. That's why I was like, I kind of bounced. And he was like, hey, and she's like, we didn't do anything. And I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. And yeah, so she was like, yeah, I won't do anything unless you're here. Yeah, sure, whatever. I mean, I do believe her, but whatever. Anyway. But, I came back, and that last week, it was like, she was always there. There was no more me and him. It was me, him, her. And then on the phone with somebody else, on Instagram with somebody else. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not doing this. Like, I just lost my mom. I need to work. I need to clear my mind. So I told him, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's what started the real fights. I remember when I did that last fight because he was disrespectful to me again. And then all of a sudden he was all hugging up on her in public while I'm there. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Even if I'm the main chick, no. You don't do that. That's supposed to be mine. So I held my tongue. She went home to her 18-year-old, and we went back to his RV. And that's when I dropped everything and I said, we're fighting right now. And he said, what? I said, we're fighting right now. I said, I told you. And I told him this already. I let him know, because he was like, what are you doing? Because I kept walking out of the bar again, because we were doing the karaoke and everything. I kept walking out of the bar. Where are you going? He would literally stop karaoke just so he could find me and be like, where are you going? What are you doing? And I was like, don't you have a job to do? Don't worry about me. And I was talking to other guys like, hey, yeah, let's play pool together, hanging out. He was like, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing whatever the hell I want. And I said, but guess what? When we get back, we're going to fight. We're going to fight. I told him before we got back, we were going to fight. And the minute we got back, I didn't say a word to him in the car. Actually, I did. I was a little abusive. I was like, oh, we're going to fight. I was like, oh, so you think that's fine? He didn't say a word, because he was happy. He was like, I got her exactly where I want her. Really? Because I still beat you at that fight when I hit you over the head with the lock. But, and you saw it in my hand. You didn't think I was going to do that? Man, I have never fought like that in my entire life. I remember we were in his bus. I put my stuff down. I think I still had my heels on. And I went after him. I pushed him. I said, so what are you trying to do? I said, you think you're a man? And I was pushing him. And then I just pushed here and there. Like, I think I pushed him probably 3 times. But then he grabbed my arm and twisted it. And I was like, ow. And once I felt that pain, it was done. So I pushed my whole body into him. And then he wrestled me. He was good at wrestling, I'm not gonna lie. And then he wrestled me. But he had me in a bear hug. So we were facing face to face. So I started biting him. I'm not gonna lie. I started biting him because he was holding me so tight. He was trying to break my bones. And so I started biting him. And then he tried to stop me from biting him, and I bit him again on the wrist, I think on the hand. Oh yeah, he was black and blue where I bit him, because I was biting for absolute purpose. And then he let me go. Well, he did let me go. And then I came back at him, and then he kind of flipped me around, but I was like, I don't care. And so I threw myself backward into him, and he hit the windshield. And I don't know, we kept on fighting, and then we got to where one of the couches were, and he literally threw me down onto the couch hard. I mean hard. And that's where I saw the lock. He had one of my arms behind my back, and I think it was my left arm he had, because I was left-handed. I am left-handed. But he didn't have my right hand. And my right hand, I was trying to get up, but he had all his weight on me. He's a fat guy, you know. He had all his weight on me, but I found a lock. And so I was trying to see if I could hit him from the back, because he was behind me. I couldn't. And I don't know why. I think he was trying to call 911 or something to claim some BS or record me, but I don't know what happened. But then he got really close to me, I don't know why, with his own head, and it gave me the opportunity, and I took a lock, and I just, pah! And I got him good. He fell back. He's just like, oh, my eye. And instead of me still hating him for being a misogynistic piece of crap, what do? I go and try to find an alcohol wipe, because I saw he was bleeding. And I started to be like, okay, I got you. Talk about trauma bonded, right? And he was like, oh no. And then he said something like, you did this to me. And I was like, you know what? And I don't know what happened, but all my emotions cut off. And I was like, I'm done. I grabbed up all my stuff, and I just dragged it all the way. Because where we were parked was around the corner. We were parked Miraloma, Ontario borderline, but where we were parked, Etiwanda, I think it was, Etiwanda Road. And I think there's a jail there. So around the block was a jail. I walked to that jail, which makes me wonder what happened to me there, because I did sleep there for a little bit. But I walked to that jail with my stuff. And, you know, the doors are open 24 hours. So I was like, I just walked, and I was in my heels. And they're like, you okay? I was like, whatever. I called Jesse. I was like, Jesse, I need you to pick me up. He didn't answer. So I had to wait till like 8 in the morning. This was, I don't know. This is at 2, 3 in the morning when he and I were fighting, me and Daryl. Anyway, Jesse picked me up. I was just traumatized by everything. You know, I just lost my mom. Like a month prior, I just lost my mother, my best friend. And as far as I can tell, my only real friend. I lost the one person in my life that was my rock. Before she died, 3 years prior, Angel was my rock. Even though we were separate for 14 years, he was my rock. Just knowing he existed made me feel good. Just knowing that he knew that I loved him. Even though he moved on, I still loved him. I never wanted him to be unhappy. I wanted to stay his friend, but his stupid little dumb Arabic girlfriend, she better be glad that I didn't live close, because I would have smacked her in the face a couple of times, be like, tell me that again. Trash. She was so weak-minded, weak-spirited. She ain't crap. I hope karma gets her hard. I really do. Because what she did to me, now she's on the watch list, but I'm so glad she is, because she definitely needs to be, because she's a harasser. Anyway, she was the first one that I've ever experienced so heavily making fake accounts just to harass me on Instagram. I was like, who is this person? And then she would send me videos in Arabic. I'd have to translate them with Google Translate just to find out she was trying to be like, oh, I have your man, haha. I was like, and she did this for a couple months. And I told Angel, but that was our breaking point. And then, he told me, F you. He was like, well, F off. And then that really hurt. And that was like a week before my birthday. And then my birthday came and he was like, well, I think it was like 2 days or 3 days before my birthday. And he said, so what are you doing for your birthday? And I said, and I was just like, don't even contact me. I said, I'm trying to have a good birthday. I took my birthday off and I just spent it alone. And I ended up spending it crying for hours because Angel called me. He called me and he was like, I just wanted to see how you were doing for your birthday. And I said, why would you care? I said, you already said what you needed to say in January. Like literally January 1st, he was with me. January 7th, he went back, and all of a sudden he was like, oh, I think I found somebody. I was like, you were just sleeping with me here in my apartment. But because I wasn't intimate with him, he thought that we had lost. We lost communication a long time ago. I knew that. But it wasn't like he was trying to make it with me. Anyway, going back to Daryl. I think it was a week later. I was like, I don't want to see him. I don't want to deal with this. I just lost my mother, my best friend. I'm losing my apartment. I don't have a job. I'm not getting my unemployment. My car is about to break down. Actually, my car had already broken down by that point. And I was just like, I'm done. I can't deal with anymore. I don't want to deal with Daryl. He's the last straw. And a week after all of that happened, I think it was a week, maybe 2. I think it might have been 2 weeks, because I was like, I don't want to go anywhere where he thinks I'm going to be. And, Jesse and Shauna were, hey, come, let's go to Duke's. And I was like, no, because I know Daryl's going to look for me. I just knew it. And sure enough, and I was back and forth. I think I went 1 or 2 times, and I told Chris, the KJ, I said, Daryl really messed me up. Like, I'm afraid of him because we got real physical. And I said, if he's here, you're going to have to call the cops, because one of us is going to die tonight. Like, that's how much rage I had. And rage and fear. And it was a lot. And then I finally was getting more calm, because, I really do believe, Shauna was cool for a while, but obviously she's a piece of shit. Excuse my language. Jesse, all of them are pieces of crap. But at the time, I felt very, very supported. You know, Jesse was always supporting me. Chris was always talking about, you know, keeping the good side and being positive. And Shauna was there. And, you know, I think I was sitting next to Shauna. Or what's her name? She was weird. She kept asking me, Alexis, or I think her name was Alexis too. And she would ask, she was the one that was like, oh, how long does it take you to wash your hair? So that she could tell my gang stalkers so that when I was in the shower, they could come into my apartment and look through my stuff without my knowledge. She would ask me some weird questions. And then she got me a dream catcher, actually. Maybe that was her way of being like, oh, sorry, you know, we're doing witchcraft on you, but we know you don't know. So here, this is my kind of make me not feel bad about what I'm doing to you. And I did. I put the dream catcher up. There's no dream catchers over here, so I really don't know how to protect myself here, but I'll figure it out. I pray to God every night before I go to sleep. I pray right while I'm laying in bed before I fall asleep. Anyhow, Daryl came, and the first person he sent out was the black girl, because we had gotten a mutual respect, I think. Probably because she knew that I was number one for Daryl. She knew it. And the fact that I took her as she was, you know, and I never judged her. I think she was like, okay, even though I'm sleeping with him behind her back, cool. So she came by. I said, oh, hi. She gave me a hug. And I was like, what are you doing here? And the minute I even asked that, I looked at her. I said, oh, no. She's like, yeah, he's here. I said, you know, it was nice seeing you. Have a nice night. And she just kind of looked at me like, what? I was like, yeah, bye. And he tried to act like he didn't see me. He came in with her, the white girl, the same ones that they danced under a freaking tree to do all these spells on me, right? But he loves me, right? So, you know, she walks back toward him, and I look at him with all the hatred in the world. And he doesn't even meet eyes with me. And he walks to the very back. I remember we had the karaoke in the back of in the patio, on the side patio. So if you go into Duke's, there's a front patio and then there's a side patio on the left side. And then you have to go through both bars before you go out into the patio there. And that's where we were having karaoke. And Chris was the KJ at the time. And I sat back down. I think Mateo was there too. Mateo, Jesse, Shauna, and the KJ. I remember I sat back down and I was just shaking. I was shaking, like I said, in fear and in hatred. But I didn't want to see him, so it was more fear. I was like, why does he have to be here? Out of all the places of karaoke he's taken me, all over Redlands, all over Colton, Fontana, Rialto, San Bernardino, you know, he had to come because he knew I was going to be there. And I already had told him before, I said, don't come here. I said, because that's my town. These are my people. I've been coming to this place since I've been in Riverside. I was going there 5 years to Duke's. Everybody knew me. That's why it was even crazier that these people even believed that I was a prostitute. They all knew me. I never left with anybody. I barely talked to anybody. There were there were certain people. I think Kevin was one. Gilbert was one. They were like the only two I really met there that I actually... Kevin reminded me of Angel. Anyway, memories, man. I'm waiting for them all to fade. I'm waiting for this whole 39 years of my life to just be in the back burner. You know, can you guys do witchcraft on me to make me forget about all of that instead of all the torture you put me through? I would really rather forget just everything. Like, if you want to send me witchcraft, send the witchcraft for forgetting those memories. That would really help me out. I'd appreciate it. But yeah, so KJ Chris came to me and he said, you okay? And I started to cry. And nobody's ever seen me like that. You know, even Richard didn't affect me that way. And he says, you want me to have security take him out? Anthony was security. Anthony had a crush on me. I know he did. He was sweet. He could tell, you know, like I said, the security knew me. They knew I wasn't about anything. I remember the so-called singer that was there that started a fight with me and smacked the glasses off my face. I just turned around. Bah! Big old fight. But I let her hit me first so that I have every right to beat the shit out of her. Too bad I was too drunk, because, man, if she would have messed with me while I was sober, I wish I would. I really do. I really do. All these people saying, oh, I'm gonna fight her. Please do. I really, really am waiting for somebody to test me. I really am. I might seem quiet and keep my head down. I give you the first hit. I'm gonna tell all of you guys right now. I give you guys that nice first hit, because legally after then, I can hurt you and possibly even kill you in self-defense. Remember that. Please. Remember that. So Anthony came back and he told Daryl he needed to leave. Ooh, Daryl was heated. But I told Daryl, don't come there, because if you come, it's going to be problems. I said, I can get you 86, and that's exactly what I did. And even after he left, I just started sitting there crying and crying and crying. I just didn't want to deal with his abuse anymore. His presence was abuse by this point. Anyway, I wanted to share that. I would make it a little bit longer, but I have to go to the restroom right now. So that is my story about Daryl. I don't care about Daryl. Like, it happened, I was upset, and it was right after my mother's death. I'm still crying and mourning my mother 3 years later. And I think hers is going to be the hardest one, because I remember when my mother, when my mom lost her mother, that was a hard thing for her too. And every year it was the same thing. She didn't know how to cope with it. And she cried every year. So, anywho, before this gets a little too much TMI, I'm going to get off here. Have a good day, or have a good evening, Facebook. And that is my story of Daryl, the short, mixed brother, military like me, that doesn't matter to me at all anymore. He can do whatever he wants.